Welcome everyone. I'm Laurel Donnellan. I am your host today for this masterclass. So happy to have you. And we're going to talk about training, something really near and dear to my heart. I recently had a discussion with a colleague named Scott Shute, who used to be the head of mindfulness and compassion at LinkedIn. And he shared with me a statistic that is a tough statistic, but I'm not surprised. So he shared with me that most managers and leaders get the training they need for their current position 5.7 years after they need it. And so at Compassionate Leader Circle, we want to help you and all your stakeholders get the training they need before they need it. And that's what Train to Transform is about. So I'm going to keep going here. Keep in mind that you can ask questions. I have a colleague, Kiana, with me that is going to monitor the Q&A. So please ask questions. We'll have time for questions later. And ask your questions and talk to Kiana through the chat so she can support you if I can't get to it. So a little bit about me and Compassionate Leader Circle. We started it in 2019, but it's really based on my life's work that I've been researching and working on for over 25 years. Our vision is we see a world where leading with love is the path to positive change, peace, and prosperity for all. We celebrate leaders who create compassionate cultures. And our work is both media and learning lab. So we are a media and education company. On the media side, we have a podcast, we have Forbes posts, we do an annual Compassionate Leader Circle Awards ceremony, which is super fun. And we also provide training programs, customized training programs for individuals and organizations. So if you're here, you care about compassion, culture, and positive change. This model on the left is our approach to organizational change. So we really look at every part of culture. I like to define culture as the organization the fly sees on the wall. So what happens when people aren't watching in your culture? What happens to your clients, your team members, your leaders? What kind of conversations are they having with their families? That's really what culture is. At the center, we have soul. So we really take this idea of vision, purpose, values very seriously and help organizations integrate that into how they attract and orient talent, how they create quality, and how they create fun and spirit and communications. As a company, we provide 4 main programs. Dream Lab is for mainly individuals that want to get clear about their soul work and how they can contribute to the world, to themselves, to their family, to their organization. Lead Lab is about helping leaders leverage compassionate leadership skills. Coach Lab is professional, compassionate coaching skills. And today we're going to talk about Train Lab and developing transformational training systems that really make a difference and really create change. And everything we do is wrapped in compassion. So if you don't mind, I'd love to take, as you're entering the masterclass, I'd like you to share maybe where you're from, if you want to, geographically. I'm in Western Michigan today. And why you're here. Love to hear that through the chat. I'm here because I love helping professional change makers create transformational training programs. I've been lucky enough to do that in my career as an HR professional, as a leader of Compassionate Leader Circle for the last 24 years. And as I look at this chapter of my life, I really get most excited about helping trainers, helping leaders take their ideas and convert them to training programs and training methods. Today, we're going to talk about compassionate leadership and compassionate training and define those things for you. We will be sending you a recording, so don't feel like you have to take mad notes. We'll be sending this material to you later today. I'm going to introduce you to the 7 C's of compassionate training so you can apply that to your own practice. And then we're going to wrap this part with a 3-part action plan so you could take the learning into your work. And then I'm going to talk about a program I'm running this summer. So maybe you want to come to summer camp with me this summer. That would be super fun. Like I said earlier, everything we do at Compassionate Leader Circle is wrapped in compassion. We define compassion as preventing or alleviating suffering. One of my colleagues at Cornell, she actually created my favorite definition, but I can't steal it from her. Her name is Christina Workman, and she uses the definition of the heart's response to suffering, which I really love. So we help compassionate leaders amplify their compassionate leadership and bring it to other people in their organizations. And we define it as the practice of using your head and your heart to inspire other people so that they can in turn inspire and influence others. I'm also working with the premise that as we develop in technology, as we develop as a global economy, as we develop social media as a way to communicate, we've gone from having leaders and followers to everyone as a leader. And I think especially in organizations, giving leadership training to everyone in the organization can be really, really powerful. So there's a leader in every seat because everyone can inspire and influence others, and everyone can become more compassionate. Compassionate training is a bit different. It's wrapped in compassionate leadership, but it's creating an experience designed and led by a compassionate trainer, that's you, that results in trainees learning something new, trusting themselves, and transforming. I think the trusting yourself as a trainee is often where we miss the mark with trainers. I did a coaching session earlier today, a performance coaching session, and it really came down to someone believing in themselves. They have all the knowledge, they have all the tools, they have all the support, but the confidence is missing. So bridging that gap in whatever programs you're creating is going to be really important. Kiana, there's a question. Is there a question that I need to answer now, or can I do it later?
Oh, later, you're good.
Okay. And there's someone in the chat too. Okay. In developing programs, we use a continuous improvement model. So at the center, some of our models have compassion. We wrap things in compassion. In our training method, we put compassion at the center. And we always start with discovery. So discovery is really understanding deeply and profoundly the organization or the client or the part of humanity that you want to help transform. And then through investigation, you're going to be ready to design something fabulous. And then through collaboration with your trainees, you're going to deliver something fabulous and then evaluate and start all over again. So it's really important in all of our programs. And when I work with other organizations, I really emphasize doing pre and post assessments. So you can not only analyze the change, but question whether the program itself and the outcomes themselves are the right outcomes. And the good news is everything can be improved. And this is a learning process. Compassion is at the center. And we're going to talk about compassionate cultures in just a minute. So that's the overall way that we help people create programs. And we're here to help leaders and companies and organizations, not-for-profits, communities, all sorts, the world, become more compassionate and become more friendly to compassionate practices. And in order to do that, whether it's in a family or an organization or community, you need to have 3 things. The first is self-compassion. One of my favorite sayings that I've heard over the years is hurt people, right? So the more we can help people love themselves, take care of themselves, get enough sleep, the more we're set up for having a compassionate culture. And then vulnerability to others. You have to create safety, whether that's in a one-to-one relationship, in a family, in an organization. You have to create a space where people can really be themselves and share their suffering, share what's really going on. And then there's compassion for others. So that's really taking action, not only to empathize with people, but to relieve their suffering in the best way you can. So I want you to pause here for a minute and think about, what is your natural strength? Are you naturally self-compassionate? Are you good at self-care? Are you naturally vulnerable to others? Are you naturally a caretaker, taking care of others? So think about your natural state and what is your strength. You can write that down if you want to. And then think about which one of these things is your biggest opportunity. You need to ask for more help. Maybe you're so focused on yourself, you're not being compassionate enough to others. Maybe you're just so busy taking care of others, you're not being self-compassionate. So sometimes these are like dials. In developing balance, you can think about whether it's an organization or whether it's an individual, you can think about which one of these areas do I need to dial up and which areas do I need to dial down. So think about what your opportunity is for one of these to dial up, one of these to dial down, and I'm going to ask you in your commitment plan to commit to doing something about that for the next 7 days. In developing programs over the years, whether they be hybrid, in person, or remote, or maybe they're we're just starting with self-paced learning management system programs in our company. Whatever type of program you're creating for your community or your clients or your team, there are what I call the 7 C's of compassionate leadership, compassionate training, excuse me. And these 7 questions that we're going to go over one by one will help you really create effective training. So we're going to go through those one by one, but to begin with, there's change, there's curriculum, there's customization, there's coaching, there's contemplative practice, there's community, and there's continuous improvement. And yes, I like alliterations and I like C's. My company is called Compassionate Leaders Circle. So there you go. The first thing to think about, what are the desired, measurable, and sustainable outcomes that this program will create? It's really funny. I worked with a company recently through all 7 of these questions, and we had to spend a lot of time on this one because they're doing really well. They have a great culture. They have great retention. They have great sales. But we had to dig, and then have a discussion about what could be even better. So sometimes we think about, okay, let's not throw out what's going well. Let's think about what's going well, and let's think about how to build on what's going well to what's even better. So if you're an individual practitioner, let's say you're a yoga teacher. I've been a certified yoga teacher for a long time, and I've worked with many. This might be a very simple thing, like teaching people yoga nidra, right? Which is a type of restorative yoga that really helped my sleep. If you're in a bigger organization, you might be creating something more complex for leaders, like an executive retreat, where you have to create a, strategic plan for 3 years. So think about And you're going to revisit this. All of these things are more like a cycle than a list. What change do you want to create? What change do you want to create for the organization, for the individual? And I think sometimes it's good to think about as a trainee, what do you want to create? As a trainer, what do you want to create? So the organization, the trainee, and the trainer. How do you want to transform during this program? You're going to put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. So think about what is going to be your transformation. The next C is curriculum. So what frameworks are right for the desired outcomes? And some of this you may get from other people, from other research, from other programs that you've taken. Some of it might come from yourself. I am someone that loves to create frameworks. The first framework I created is for career change, called the Donnellan method. There's 12 principles and practices associated with it. I thought it was going to take me 2 years to create in graduate school, and it took me 6. So not all of us have the wherewithal, the patience, or the time to take 6 years out to create a framework. But you can probably create something simple, or adapt something you know about, or get permission from someone who's really good at it, and get their framework to use. So what are the frameworks? So frameworks can be also really simple. Another framework that we use when we coach and create programs is making sure that we address the past, the present, and the future. So all of our programs and all of our coaching packages just relate to that, so that you can take that. If you like that, you can think about what has happened in the past for this group of trainees, what's going on presently, and what do you want to transform, what do you want to create in the future. So there's a simple framework that you can use. There's others that are much more complex. There's a lot of assessments out there. There's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of books out there. Recently I had a client who took the book Radical Candor. They loved that book, and they hired that company to come and teach that framework. So sometimes curriculum is a collaboration. Sometimes it's about you creating your own. So customization, we can go to lots of different ways here. I've already mentioned, there's online learning, self-paced learning. There's live learning. After COVID, that's my favorite, being with people in the same room. There is, there's online learning that's live, and you can create a hybrid approach. We work with the university right now that it's a hybrid program. During COVID, we did it all online. That was really tough. And now we combine some online sessions with 2 days of retreat sessions. So that's pretty nice. So a lot of this has to do with cadence as well. If you're in a big organization, you may not be able to pull people out for half day or a day or 2 days. You might have to create a program that's once a month over 8 months. So there's lots of ways to customize programs to make it work for the organization, the trainer, and most importantly, the trainees. And they will give you a lot of feedback if you do your discovery process properly. Coaching. I used to do coaching or training, and now I really find that combining the two is even more potent. So there's lots of ways to do that. In bigger groups, I actually give the trainees some coaching skills and have them pair up in learning partners so they get to coach each other. Also in big groups, I use a method of fishbowl coaching, and it's fun for me. I love to do it, but it's not for every trainer to do, where you ask a volunteer to be coached on the subject you're talking about, and you coach that person, and then what I ask the observers in the class to do is observe from a place of how does this coaching session really relate to you, and what are you learning from the interaction? Sometimes we add coaching to a program. So we have, for example, 2 or 3 coaching sessions built into an online program. So the facilitator can do some coaching before and after and during the program, in addition to doing the group program. So lots of different ways to create coaching. And we have a great coaching model that we use. And there's lots of great coaching books and coaching methods out there. But I know that adding coaching to your training program in some way, shape, or form will really help with the transformation and the change. Contemplative practice. This doesn't have to look like sitting on top of a mountain for an hour, but it's important to help people catch up and integrate and learn in any way you can add some sort of slowing down process. There's lots of ways to do that. I love, because I'm a certified yoga teacher and I love leading guided visualizations and meditation. I add meditation to a coaching program or guided visualization. When I'm doing executive retreats, especially in beautiful places, I try to incorporate getting the trainees outside. If you're doing an online program with a space between sessions, maybe there's a week, we add something called a soul adventure. Soul adventures are kind of helping people get out into the world and with a journal and nothing else and slow down. I have colleagues on my faculty that actually use gongs for helping people slow down. So I have yoga teachers that do yoga. So there's lots of ways to incorporate reflection and slowing down into your program. And just so that we practice what we preach here, I'm going to have us do a little contemplative break right now. So if you can just, hopefully you're not in your car, but if you're in a place that's safe, I'd like you to stop and breathe and close your eyes. Focus in on your breath. Breathing in peace. Breathing everything else out. Breathing in the idea of peace, breathing everything else out. And if you can, in your mind's eye, just ask yourself the question, what is in it for me here? What's the gift that I can take away from this session? What is the gift that I can take away from this session about training? Just don't judge it. Just allow something to come up. There may be nothing that comes up. There may be an image. There may be a feeling. So allow something to come up. What's the gift that I'm going to take away from this session? Just allow it to come up. Let everything else go. Open up your eyes and write that down. We're actually changing brain function when we do that, which is a good thing when you're training people. The next C, community. So who is facilitating the learning process during the program and when the program is completed? I like to tell people that are in my programs, 10% of the effort is getting here, signing up, showing up. We do a lot of the work for you while you're here, but 10% of the effort is while you're here. But the transformation and the effort is really after. If we're doing our job and designing a great program, 80% of the effort and the transformation will happen after the program. So how are you going to follow up with people? If they're making commitments and changes, perhaps coaching or mentoring is a way to follow up. Texting, I often text my coachees to follow up with them before a session to make sure that they're on track. If you're in an organization, there may be some integration of supervisors into the process. So I think sometimes we're so busy creating programs and executing them, we forget about what happens afterwards. We want to help you really create change and transformation. So thinking about community. So it's you as the trainer, it's the trainees, leveraging the wisdom of the trainees in the process is also really important, and then following up. And the last but not least is continuous improvement. That kind of relates back to the Donnellan training method. So making sure that you're going back to discovery, back to design, and back to delivery from a place of what are you actually measuring, what changed, and how can the process be improved. And we do that with pre and post assessments, but you can do that with focus groups, interviews, other KPIs that you're already measuring in your organization. So that is the 7 C's. I'm happy to pause here with questions or comments, and Kiana, you can read them for me if you see any.
Yes,
Any questions, comments?
there's a question we have in the Q&A for the 7 C's. And it says, can the change have stages with associated timelines and mileposts? Sometimes in corporate setting, it's more about by the end of the quarter, sales cycle, annual employee performance review time, etc.
Yeah, I love that. I think you should, sometimes it makes sense to integrate it with company, but I think most time separating the learning and transformation process from that can be most beneficial. And I always end programs with a commitment plan. I'm going to do that with you all today as well. And that can be sometimes 7 days or 30 days or 90 days. So it may be fun to play with. Let's separate this from the fiscal year or the quarter. Let's just make the learning and the program align with what types of we want to set our trainees up for success. So it might be about lowering the types of changes, making them much simpler and making the timeline much simpler. Or if you have the wherewithal and the capacity, you can make it longer. Like, what are you going to do in the next 3 years with this new knowledge? So that can be designed based on how how you can best be a change maker and what is best for the trainees. I do find that because everyone is often so busy and overwhelmed, having smaller steps can be helpful. So recently I did a 2-day retreat with executives, and there was 3 parts of different types of training. The first piece, we did a 7-day plan. The second piece, we did a 30-day plan. And the third piece, we did a 90-day plan, but the chief people officer and the CEO are responsible for following up with those plans. Great question. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, so here's your plan. So your plan for the next 7 days, if you could write this down, choose one action related to self-compassion, vulnerability, or compassion for others that you want to take in the next 7 days. Be very small. We want to set you up for success. It could be really simple, like, I'm gonna create more time. Everything I'm going to schedule for next week is going to have 30 minutes in between it instead of back to back. Or maybe if you have a vulnerability action, it can be, I need to talk to my spouse about something that's bothering me that I've been, letting go for a long time. Or compassion for others might be just something simple like, I'm going to take care of my friend's dog so they can go to Chicago this weekend. Okay, so that's point 1. So from compassionate training, I'd like you to identify the best idea for a training program after brainstorming many with your clients or colleagues. So I think sometimes we skip over the ideation part of this, which for me is the most fun. So really asking yourself the question, if I, without boundaries, like if I could teach anything in my private practice or organization or division or school, wherever you are, what would I want to teach and why? So allow yourself some creative time with that in the next 7 days. And then think about, once you land on something, what do you want to change? Yesterday, I had the most extraordinary experience. I interviewed the president of the National Organization for Women, who is really widening her focus from just gender to all sorts of social issues, social justice. And it's amazing to me how much they're doing. So at a very high level, she's creating training programs that are going to kind of change our country over the next 10 years. So you can go very wide, you can go very narrow, but it's just getting started and enjoying the process of, you know, I think training is a lot about hope, like having the hope that you can really help your stakeholders make these changes. So have fun with that. I'm going to shift into what I'm calling my training summer camp for adults. So I'm doing a program this summer to help trainers, HR people in private practice, learn and develop these skills that we're talking about. If you have an idea for training, or even if you don't, you can come for 8 weeks, and by the end of the 8 weeks, you can have a specific training program and materials. It begins on June 2nd. So like I said, you can go from just an idea to, we will provide structure so that you have a trainer guide and training assets by the time you're done. You're going to have structure and support from me, my team, and an amazing group of peers. You're going to be able to go deeper into your training gifts and approaches and emerge with more confidence. Maybe you're going to use this to be unstuck, and you're going to develop an amazing network. A lot of my faculty are in the program, who are like some of the best people I know. And we'd love for more of you to join us. So it's a training incubator. You're going to create a practicable project related to a training practice. You're going to be able to up your game as a trainer, learn new skills and new practices, not only from me, but from other practitioners. Definitely build your confidence, resilience, clarity, and hopefully your sense of humor about the world of training. You're going to learn techniques to help your trainees have less stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. It's really hard to get people's attention. There's so much coming at them. And we're going to teach you techniques that'll help them let go of the noise and be in the room with you when you're training them. And develop a comprehensive practical plan to make your new training program a reality. So all that comes out of the 8 weeks. We have this on the website. These are some people that have worked with me in the past. We have a coach here. We have a not-for-profit leader. We have a corporate leader. One of the things we do attract is people across sectors, and it's super fun. So here's an example of, I did a 2-day version of this with a group recently, and this is how we were able to move the needle in 2 days in this type of program. So we practice what we preach. We give you an ROI on your time. We want to help you be a compassionate leader, be a compassionate trainer, and get everything you sign up for here. So we're going to do a live class. I'll lead it every Friday starting June 2nd. You can take it live or self-paced. We'll have recordings and materials given to everyone who's not there. We'll have comprehensive guides and templates and resources for you. Final project, you'll be able to present to your peers in this group what you're going to do after the program, where that transformation will happen. You have me, which is my honor. And we have this amazing group to offer support and facilitation, and you'll be able to communicate and really develop real relationships with this group. As resources, you're going to get the slide decks, the videos, templates for creating live programs, a certification of certificate of completion. And we've added a bonus. We have this new online on-demand program that's launching on May 1st. And we're giving this as a bonus to everyone that is accepted into this program. The investment is $19.97 if you are 30 or older, and $4.97 if you're younger than that. And the reason we're doing that as part of our mission at Compassionate Leader Circle is to train the future compassionate leaders, and we want to make that easier for them. We do have payment plans available. If you apply by May 1st, we're going to give you a code. If you apply by May 1st, you're accepted, you can get a 10% discount from either the young adult price or the professional price. You can apply at our website, which is compassionateleadercircle.com. And the code at checkout, if you're accepted, is Train Lab 10. Train Lab 10. And that will be in an email that we will send you to follow up with today. I want to make sure that we get you all out on time, but we'd love to hear from you through the chat. Any questions you have or any insights you got from today?
You have another question in the Q&A.
Okay.
Says, what's your outlook on how these concepts land for different generations, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, boomers, around learning?
That's such a good question. I get the privilege of teaching high school students, college students, adults, all ages. I think you have to be really clear about and listen to your trainees. I think you don't want to go in with assumptions because my experience, for example, teaching high school students, we used to use a completely different curriculum in 2006. And as we've evolved our curriculum, it's become very similar, almost identical to what we do with adults of all ages. I design in a way that's evergreen and for everyone. And I happen to have a love and curiosity for all ages and also for international. I get to work with people around the world. I think, and I have a couple of people on my staff that are in their 20s. I think younger people, I'm 63, have had a completely different experience than I had when I was their age. They have AI, for example, and it's like beyond the internet. They have a way to communicate, through social media from people all over the world. I think it's not an easy question to answer, but I think we have to be super aware of all diversity, whether that's cultural, age, sexual orientation, race. I think we have to be really aware of that. And I think the only way to adapt our training programs and make them work is really listen to all of our constituents that are not like us. At the same time, I think there's universal principles, and I believe the 7 C's are universal. And I try to create models that are universal and evergreen. So that's my approach. I think we also don't want to overuse stereotypes. I can tell you, I have, you know, 2 Gen Zers in my on my team that sometimes I think are so much wiser than I am. And I think that's more spiritual than age. So I think we want to be aware of it, but not overuse it. I hope that answers your question. It's a great question. But if anyone else has a better answer, please feel free. Any other questions, Kiana?
Yes, Allison asked, where do you teach high schoolers?
Oh, if you go to compassionateleaderscircle.com and you go to Dream Lab for Teens, you'll see that we are partnered with an organization in India. The last class we did with that organization, we had high school students from 10 countries. So right now we're doing it online. My colleague Tracy Goodsell and I are also going to do a live program when we're in India. So the answer is right now we're doing it online, but we want to teach compassionate leadership skills and Dream Lab skills to people all over the world. And the way we're going to do that is by partnering with other people who want to do that work. There is a couple of people in Train Lab who are interested in that work and our approach to it. So that's if you're interested in that, Train Lab is a kind of way to connect with those people and that mission. Any other questions? Just repeating this opportunity to be at Dream Lab, Train Lab. And I'm gonna stop my share, and I have a colleague here, Natalie Fine is here, and I'm gonna put her information in the chat. If you have any questions about Train Lab or any of our programs, my wonderful Natalie will be happy to meet with you and talk to you about that. Thank you for your time and attention. I know you're all really busy. I'm so delighted to have you all, and I hope that we get to see you this summer.